Announced very clearly, I've spoken in several occasions, if Europe does not really look at how they can water down the CSDDD or cancel the CSDDD and still have a penalty of 5% of our 5% of our total world turnover as a penalty, we will not be delivering LNG to Europe for sure, 100%. And the reason being is what I just said. We have already announced a while back that we can't reach net zero, and that's one of the requirements, among other host of things that I think the majority are aware of. So I think that Europe needs to understand that I think they need the gas from Qatar, they need the gas from the US, they need the gas from many places around the world.
Kaabi, we're talking about an uncertain world. We're talking about politics. Is Qatar going to stop its LNG exports to Europe?
First, I'd like to thank His Excellency and His Excellency Dr. Sultan for inviting me to this conference. It's a pleasure to be with everybody, and I think it's very hard to speak after the two speeches that we heard, which were magnificent, and I agree with everything they said. Regarding whether we would stop to Europe, you're talking about the regulations in Europe. One of the things that I would like to highlight is, I think, maybe if you look at everybody in the room, and I think most of these companies are our colleagues and friends, we have had in Qatar the same policy and our view on how we see the business, how we see the transition, how we see the need for oil and gas for the future, and have not changed our ways. We have announced that we can't reach net zero because we don't think it's achievable. I think, a small part of this conference, unfortunately, changed with politics, depending on, when it was President Biden and now President Trump and so on. And I think they're not looking at facts and realities. And I think we shouldn't be following politics when we look at the lives of people for the future and how much energy we need in the future. Going back to your question, we have announced very clearly, I've spoken in several occasions, if Europe does not really look at how they can water down the CSDDD or cancel the CSDDD and still have a penalty of 5% of our 5% of our total world turnover as a penalty, we will not be delivering LNG to Europe for sure, 100%. And the reason being is what I just said. We have already announced a while back that we can't reach net zero, and that's one of the requirements, among other host of things that I think the majority are aware of. So I think that Europe needs to understand that I think they need the gas from Qatar, they need the gas from the US, they need the gas from many places around the world. And I think if they don't change that, it's not us as a company, it's Toyota delivering cars that will be impacted. This is not an oil and gas thing. So I think it's very important that you look at this very seriously, and I think that's being looked at by the Europeans.
And Your Excellency Badawi, just a quick one for you. We're talking about a $35 billion gas deal that Israel called off, essentially. Do you believe you're going to be able to get that deal back on the table for Egypt?
So first of all, it's a great pleasure to be here, and Your Highnesses, and also really a big thank to Dr. Sultan, right, for having us here. When you look at Egypt, we're very much focused in terms on how we can really play a key role in the energy landscape and how we can really help to have molecules in the region, in the East Mediterranean, to be monetized at the lowest cost per scuff. And also in terms of enabling really this monetization to take place, leveraging the infrastructure, right, that exists in Egypt, and to make sure that we avail that energy need, to the different markets where it's required. When you look at Egypt, Egypt itself has a market of 120 million people. And at the same time, it has, energy needs which are growing, year on year. But more importantly is that really we're focused, and I like the word that Dr. Sultan mentioned about, filtering out the noise and really focusing really in terms on the signal. And we're very much, focused in terms on how we can unlock, the upstream sector, both, the oil and gas, accelerate production of existing fields, accelerate exploration to unlock future reserves, and not only in Egypt, but in the Eastern Mediterranean, and as well in terms of focusing on the infrastructure that we have to help our partners, both in Egypt and in the region, to monetize those molecules, whether in terms of oil or gas, through the petrochemical sector, to create value-added derivatives, through the refineries, to create value-added, products, or for our export terminals, to make that energy available, in the region. The third one is also on the mining, and critical minerals is also very, very important, as Secretary Doug Bergen, mentioned, and Egypt is very much focused in terms of unleashing the potential, of the mining sector, in Egypt, and collaborating with our partners to make that available, not only in terms of raw material, but as well in terms of industry.